Hello, Raptors fans, and welcome back to Raptors Report. We have a very special episode for you today because the Toronto Raptors managed to win a game on the road. Unbelievable. Yes, and we will actually be talking exclusively about this game because it is such a momentous occasion. It really deserves an in-depth look at how the Raptors were able to pull one off on the road. Yep, they managed to do it. They managed to beat the Pelicans, who have been ravaged by injury, perhaps even more so than the Toronto Raptors. It was close in the first quarter and into the second quarter until the Toronto Raptors found the hot hands and really made the Pelicans pay for packing the paint. How's that for alliteration? But yeah, this was a much needed win. I think that the Toronto Raptors and their fans have suffered enough watching them drop game after game after game after game. Close games, not so close games, regular time losses, overtime losses, you name it. The Toronto Raptors have found a way to lose it this season. And so watching this game was a remedy for that. And if you managed to watch the game, it was two bottom feeders fighting one another. So I don't blame you if you missed this one. But if you caught the game, I'm sure you share my sentiments that it was a huge relief to be able to see these guys get a win on the road, have a game where it was just sort of no stress in the second half, where you knew that these guys could play free and easy, make shots, score, and have some fun. You could tell that they were really enjoying the fruits of their labor in the second half when they just completely walked all over the Pelicans, and it turned it into a complete blowout, no doubt about it. And the two hot hands during the game, and in my opinion, the two stars of the game, were Ochai Agbaji and Jamison Battle. The two of them got unbelievably hot from the field. And this was kind of after the Toronto Raptors struggled in the first quarter shooting the ball. And the reason is because they were settling for shots on some of their less effective three-point shooters. So Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett, I don't mind when they take a couple of wide open threes. I think that the two of them as the primary ball handlers on the team, the primary creators, they deserve to be able to keep the defense honest. They should be able to take a couple of shots from three-point range. However, in the first quarter and for Scotty Barnes, throughout the game, he was simply settling for too many threes. He finished the game with two made threes on 12 three-point shots, which was not very good. RJ Barrett finished the game actually on a better note, 3 for 7, but in the first quarter he was, I believe, 1 for 5 at a certain point. So he made up for that by hitting his final 2 threes, but it was kind of ugly. And I understand that when the Pelicans were packing the paint, I understand the need to keep them honest and trying to punish them for playing too far off of you. The game really hinged and turned when RJ Barrett stopped settling for threes and started driving into the paint. That was really when the game turned around. The Pelicans were sending multiple helpers on the RJ Barrett Jakob Poeltl pick and roll. That's one reason why Jakob Poeltl didn't have a great game offensively, but they were sending 3, sometimes even 4 players to pack in on the RJ Barrett Jakob Poeltl pick and roll. And as a result, that action created a lot of space for other guys, notably Ochai Agbaji, who was unconscious this game. And RJ Barrett, as soon as he got 2 feet in the paint, as soon as he was able to penetrate even a little bit, get into the defense, he was doing a fantastic job finding guys on the perimeter. I mentioned it when I was posting last night. As soon as he started getting into the paint, he immediately was rewarded with a couple of assists. Once that started happening, the Raptors' offense just completely took off. The Pelicans really did not have a solution for RJ Barrett being the distributor and finding guys on the perimeter. He had 11 assists. It was kind of a masterful performance and certainly a breath of fresh air for Raptors fans, including myself, who had kind of noticed his struggles on the road. And they brought it up on the broadcast. They showed a graphic, as I mentioned last episode, that he had the highest disparity between his home stats and his away stats. And I went very into depth showing how efficient he was at home and how inefficient he was on the road. And he responded by having a gem last night. He had it going all over the place. And so his contributions on offense are duly noted, and his ability to play on the road was just a breath of fresh air. certainly one of the defining characteristics of this game. His ability to find and make reads really punished the Pelicans' defensive scheme. They wanted to pack the paint, and the Toronto Raptors, even though they're not a great shooting team, they do have some shooters. The two guys that were very hot, we'll start with Agbaji. He was masterful. He was fantastic, extremely accurate. A lot was made prior to the game when Darko Rajakovic kind of called him out after the last performance that he had, where he was 0 and he was completely ineffective. He played a number of minutes and really did not produce anything on offense, and then wasn't as effective on defense either. It was kind of a nightmare performance on his part. But this game was completely different. The Pelicans decided that it would be safe to leave him open in the corner, and from beyond the arc. He didn't just hit corner threes, he hit wing threes as well. Agbaji is one of the most, if not the most deadly corner merchant in the whole league. The guy is almost automatic when you leave him open from the corner, and boy, they left him open. He was banging shots all night long. He only missed one shot. He was 9 for 10 from the field, 6 of 7 from 3, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a nasty block. Wow, what a performance from him. He blew the game wide open. Threes, as you well know, are the home run ball in basketball. If you get hot at the right time, you can blow a game wide open. And the Toronto Raptors defense was strong last night. The Pelicans have a couple of guards who can heat up and hit shots. DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum, if they have a good matchup or they're feeling good, they can really light you up. But I thought that the Raptors' perimeter defense and interior defense as well did a really good job of bottling those guys up. They didn't get a lot of clean looks. DeJounte Murray at one point was 1 for 12 from the field. He was having a nightmare game. CJ McCollum got kind of clamped up by Jacoby Walter. And maybe that's a good way to segue into the rookie who got his first start of the season. And yeah, he was great. He looked really good. His first shot was a 3-point corner look, which he made to open the scoring for the game. I thought he had a lot of things going for him. Boy, he looked energized, and he looked like a spark plug in the starting lineup for the Raptors. The Raptors had a really bad start to the game against the Detroit Pistons, and part of that was because they were missing some shooting, and I guess that's why they decided to take Davion Mitchell, put him on the bench, and bring in Jacoby Walter. They wanted a guy who could knock down some shots to open things up for the rest of the team, and the strategy worked. I mean, he didn't finish with a very good three-point percentage. He was 2 of 10 from 3, but having him out there definitely makes teams want to close out hard, and he was able to take advantage of that with some nice drives. He had a fantastic circus layup and one. It was like one of the highlights of the season for sure. Scotty Barnes delivered a no-look fast break pass to a slashing Jacoby Walter, who grabbed the ball under the basket, laid it up and in while falling down, and won. What a finish from him. So he went 2 for 10 from 3. He was 6 of 14 from the field, so he made every one of his other shots. He finished with 14 points and 11 rebounds. Yeah, he was doing stuff on defense. He was very active. You could tell that he wanted to make an impression and show the coach, like, hey, I want to be here. I want to start these games. You can't send me to the bench that easily. 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 turnovers, unfortunately, but his defense was great. He was really all over CJ McCollum, who has traditionally been a Raptors killer. The guy is absolutely unbelievable against the Raptors. He seems to make all of the shots that he takes against the Raptors, but he didn't last night, probably partially because it was his first game back from injury. Ditto with DeJounte Murray, his first game back as well. Both of them looked rusty. The Pelicans were missing Brandon Ingram. He's the only one that's kind of notable because they have a bunch of guys who have been on the injury reserve list. Brandon Ingram, this was, I believe, his first game that he missed. So if they're tanking, good for them. I guess they got the result that they were looking for. But yeah, he had to sit, and that was a big boon for the Raptors because without them, they couldn't really get anything going. And part of the reason for that was because of the play of Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl had a very good defensive game. He was standing big inside, He made it so that the Pelicans, every time they went to the basket, had to go through him. On offense, it was a different story. As I mentioned, the Pelicans were really collapsing and trying to cut off the Jakob Poeltl, RJ Barrett pick and roll. They were sending tons of players to come and help out on that play. So he finished with 4 points. Another kind of disappointing offensive effort from Jakob Poeltl. He's had a couple of those in a row. I think it's become a point of emphasis for the other team to try and stop the Toronto Raptors' most effective half-court play, which is the Jakob Poeltl, RJ Barrett pick and roll. And yeah, that's kind of what happened this game. He didn't get a ton of open looks. He only shot 4 shots. Yeah, nothing to write home about Jakob Poeltl. I think he did his job. The main job for the center is, of course, playing defense. That is the number one thing that you require from your center. You want them standing in the paint and making it difficult for the other team, and the proof was in the pudding. The Pelicans only scored 93 points on the game. They shot 38% from the field. They couldn't get anything going inside. Yves Missy did have a pretty decent game. He has been kind of their wonderkind rookie at a Baylor. Good-looking young big, can kind of get things going inside. He had a couple of and ones. But other than him, and it wasn't exactly easy for him as well, he just was the recipient of a couple of nice alley-oop passes, but it wasn't as though he was going off or anything. He was just in the right place at the right time. I think Jakob Poeltl did a good job just in general of limiting the Pelicans on the inside. Next up, we've kind of gone in descending order of goodness because last on the list is Scottie Barnes. Probably had his worst game of the season. This was not a pretty one for Scottie Barnes. As I mentioned, there were a couple of guys who were settling for 3-point shots early on, and for Scottie Barnes, it was kind of throughout the game. He finished with 17 points on 23 shots, so pretty inefficient. He was 2 for 12 from 3. He did have 12 rebounds, so finished with a double-double, 7 assists, a block, and 5 turnovers, but it was not a very good game for him. It really comes down to shot diet. If you're going to take 12 threes, the reason you would take 12 threes in a game is because you are being successful there. So maybe you're hitting over 40% of your 3-point shots at a certain point during the game, and so you feel confident in your ability to make them. But you know, after the 10th three, maybe stop shooting them if you're not hitting them. I understand his desire to punish the collapsing Pelicans defense, but that's the shot that they want you to take if you're not making them. That is a win for their defensive scheme if you are the one taking that shot. And Scottie is a rhythm player. He's about feeling good. And when he starts feeling good, it snowballs. He starts feeling better. When he starts feeling better and gets his confidence and his swagger going, then he's doing a lot of other stuff. It's all about momentum for him. And when he starts off kind of stilted and just is jacking up threes, I feel like he never really got into a rhythm this game. He wasn't able to get the ball rolling down the hill for himself. And as a result, a lot of the stuff that he tried this game, whether it was scoring inside or even the passing, 7 assists and 5 turnovers, that's not really what you want to see from your lead ball handler. That's not a very good ratio. He was turning the ball over, trying to force passes that weren't really going to work. He was throwing up prayers at the rim, looking for fouls. It was just kind of a nightmare game for him on the offensive side of the ball. But we'll talk about some good stuff. I think that he was part of the package in terms of limiting the Pelicans on defense. When you talk about the 12 rebounds, he and Jakob Poeltl combined together for 20 rebounds. They were one and done. The Pelicans were not grabbing a ton of offensive rebounds, and you got to give Scottie Barnes credit for that. And another thing is that when he is inside and he is around the basket, he is an intimidating player. He's big and strong. He can jump. Players don't feel comfortable taking shots around him. So I will give him credit on the defensive end because he is like a power forward on defense. And you want to reward and talk about your bigs playing good defense because that is one of the major attributes that bigs bring to the table. That end of the basketball court is a lot more important for bigs, which is why you hear me devote a lot of time talking about, say, Jakob Poeltl's defensive effort versus maybe some of the other smaller players on the team like Grady Dick. Because perimeter defense, of course, it's important, but it is not even half as important as the bigger players on the roster have far more defensive responsibilities because they're guarding not only their man, but they are also providing help defense. They are essentially the goalies of the team. They are trying to keep the other team from scoring inside. And I thought Scotty Barnes was a big part of that. He was really helping out on the defensive end. So can't get too low on what Scotty Barnes brings to the table, even if he's not bringing it on offense, because he does bring that effort on defense. Next up, we'll talk about the bench. I think we could even skip past Chris Boucher here. He only played 11 minutes. He didn't make a shot, but he didn't need to. This was not his game. Darko realized it pretty early on, and he was like, listen, they are packing the paint. It is time to bring on the shooter. And of course, I am talking about Jamison Battle. Jamison Battle had one of, if not the best bench performance of the season. 24 points, 9 of 11, never forget, from the field, 6 of 8 from 3, 1 rebound, 3 assists, blah, 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 who cares? The guy was a flamethrower. I always watch snippets of the game and usually a layout of the game before creating these videos, and I got the Pelicans feed. I love listening to the play-by-play commentator for the Pelicans. He used to be the Lakers guy. I can't remember his name, but he has that very low baritone voice, and just the way he says Jamison Battle's name just made me howl with laughter because they were so disappointed whenever he would catch the ball on the perimeter because they knew that it was just going to be automatic. He was scorching hot. He took a couple of heat checks. I think he made one of the heat check shots that he took. Battle has that kind of interesting left foot forward shot that you don't see very often from shooters, but that thing was going in. It is so pleasing to me that the Toronto Raptors have that guy that can come in and bang shots, because it seems like whenever the Raptors go out and get a shooter, God, there's been so many. Svi Mikhailuk, Juancho Hernan Gomez, Otto Porter, oh God, Joe Wieskamp, Rodney Hood. We're going to go way back. Rasul Butler, Linus Kleza. There have been so many players that the Raptors have brought in to be a bench shooter. Seems like they can never get a guy who can actually go out and make the shots that they take off of the bench. Shout out to G Fergs on Twitter for noticing this, because I'm like, oh yeah, of course. The Toronto Raptors have really struggled at getting bench shooters that can actually make their shots, and Jamison Battle is the first guy. And as I noted online, this is the first time the Toronto Raptors have a who the hell is this guy? It seems like every other team has a who the hell is this guy shooter off of their bench, except the Toronto Raptors. They finally have one. Jamison Battle came in and just banged threes all game long. Love it. I love when a guy on the Toronto Raptors can get hot from three. It gets those endorphins flowing in your bloodstream where you're just like, the success builds on the success builds on the success. You get the little goosebumps because they get so hot from three. Love it. Love that feeling. It's one of the best feelings in basketball, in my opinion. So I've been critical of him and praised him at different parts during the season, but last night was a performance that honestly, I have a pretty good memory for this kind of stuff. I won't forget that performance, and he'll live in my role player memory probably for a very long time. So good for him. Very good for the Raptors as well. Next up, we will talk Jamal Shead. Jamal Shead has been hitting threes. Huge development. As I've mentioned in the past, Jamal Shead as a small guard, that is the number one skill that you need as a guard. When you're talking about bigs, what is it? Defense, rebounding. If you have a big that can't do those things, that's kind of like a deal breaker. With guard size players, okay, guys who are Jamal Shead size, 3-point shooting. That is the number one skill that you need to have in order to be a successful guard in the NBA. He was 2 for 4 from 3, finished with 8 points, 3 of 6 from the field, 4 assists as well, and 2 steals, only 1 turnover. Great game. I'm not saying that he has to be banging off the dribble threes, although that would be nice as he develops. At this point, being able to catch and shoot threes is good enough. I will definitely take that. And he hit his shots tonight. Very happy with his performance. And when he does have the ball in his hands and he's attacking the basket and getting into the paint, he is a very good distributor. He has creation chops. A lot of the Jamal Shead passes are true assists where he is actually manufacturing the look for his teammate. So I think that he is showing me a lot of stuff. He's had 2 good games in a row, so good for him. So the Raptors are on a bit of a little winning surge here. They have won 3 of their past 5 games. Some very disappointing games in there they could have won against the Pistons. They play the Heat next tomorrow night, and then they play the Heat again to begin their homestand. Now, I've been saying for a while now that they look like they're about to turn the corner, and the margin of victory in their losses has not been very severe. They have been in a lot of close games, and I think that, as I've mentioned before, as guys start returning from injury, I was kind of discouraged after that Detroit game. I was thinking, was I just blowing smoke? Are these guys actually going to turn the corner? They're back on track. They've recaptured my confidence, and I think that they will start to win some games. So the Heat are next. I'm not exactly sure what the situation is with Jimmy Butler. He's back. I mean, he's healthy, but perhaps the Heat are looking to load manage him a little bit. I'm not sure if he's going to play against the Raptors. Maybe they think that they could get a win without him, but he is back and they have looked a lot better. This is definitely Tyler Hero's best season as a pro. He's averaging 23 points per game, really emerged as a very good scoring guard. Bam Adebayo's having kind of a down season on offense, but as we all know, he's one of the better defenders in the entire league. And then they have a stable of quality role players. And Eric Spoelstra, of course, one of the best coaches in the association, always manages to squeeze the most out of those role players, makes them look way better than you would think they are, and what they look like on other teams after the Miami Heat are done with them is honestly pretty grim. The track record of role players who leave the Heat, like Caleb Martin this season, Gabe Vincent, those guys, he got them looking like stars. Got them paid, and now when they leave the Heat, they kind of just blow up like a time bomb. So that should be a difficult game in Miami because they're playing a lot better, and Jimmy Butler could be playing that game as well. So that's no easy task to beat the Heat there, but the Toronto Raptors are playing pretty well. I wouldn't put it past them for them to win at least one of the games against the Heat. Probably the one at home, I would assume, would be the one that they would pick up, but who knows? They've finally cracked that goose egg on the road. Maybe they can make it 2 in a row. That would be very exciting. But yeah, love that game. Interested in seeing what they're able to do against the Heat in those back-to-back games. And that is the episode. What did you think of the Toronto Raptors finally managing to win a game on the road? Are you happy? Over the moon? Ecstatic? Maybe you were disappointed because they lost to another tanking team that might have just leapfrogged them in the tankathon standings. Please let me know here in the comments, and also on Twitter and Blue Sky, where you can find me at Raps Report. I love hearing from other Raptors fans. We have a great community. I always make a point of trying to respond to almost every comment. So if you like the video, please subscribe, leave a thumbs up, hit the bell icon, do all that good stuff, help the channel grow. And as always, thanks for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.